Hi, I'm Sheriff Ed McMahon. We have created a video to assist you as you apply for your concealed handgun permit. Please take a few minutes of your time and hopefully this will answer any questions you may have.
Now we are going to apply for a carry concealed permit. Welcome to the New Hanover County Sheriff's Office. Today we're going to apply for a carry concealed permit. You first need to go to newhanoversheriff.com. It should be the first one at the top of the Google selections. You will see a picture of our sheriff on the screen, and you will go appropriately to where it says Forms, Policies, and Permits. You will click on this page in the right top corner, and you now come to the page that says Policy, Permits, and Forms. You will scroll down to where it says Weapons, and you'll click on Carry Concealed Permit, New or Renew. If you are a new applicant, you will click on New. After reading that page, there will be around 7 prompts that you will have to agree to. I suggest reading each page. The pages are changing and turning, but you have to agree to each after reading. As I said, there are 7 prompts. Each one is giving you information that they want you to know. Now you've received the concealed handgun permit application. You will fill it out, last name first. And you will put in your maiden name, first, middle, last. If you have a maiden name. If you have aliases, you would go to the aliases prompt and put in, yet again, first, middle, and last. So you would say and fill out the information as requested. Hit add and close. If you have a social, you'll fill out the social as it asks. If you have a birth date, which we all should, you would put in 2-digit month, 2-digit day, and 4-digit year. You will need to put slashes after the first 2 digits, after the next 2 days, and between the days and the year. Then you'll put how old you are, the city you were born in, when you get to month, you will type in the first 2 digits of the month. It gives you a drop-down box. You'll scroll through them and then hit enter. It asks you if you're a U.S. citizen. If you're not a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident, if you select no, it's going to ask you and tell you what you must do if you're a permanent resident, where you would fill all of this out if you're a permanent resident. If you're a U.S. citizen and were born in this country, you would check yes. If you're ever in the military, you would put whether you're active duty. If you're active duty, we will ask you to bring your active duty military ID. Next, it comes to demographic information. You will fill out race and whether or not you're Hispanic, Latino, and your gender. It'll ask you your height, which you'll give your 1-digit height, and then 2-digit inches. It'll ask you your weight, so if you're 98 pounds, you would put 098. If you're 250 pounds, you would put 258. Ask you your hair color and your eye color. Drop-down boxes can be selected, and you'll select from each drop-down box. For physical description, it's asking whether or not you're small, medium, or large. Fill that out appropriately. For your telephone number, it asks your primary phone number, and it asks for a cell phone number. Next, it asks for you to check the box for text messages or not. You will fill that out, and then you'll put your driver's license in. If your driver's license has zeros before it gets to an actual number, do not put the zeros, but put the number. So if it's 00007984456, you would put the 798456 without the zeros. When it goes to state, you will click on it, type in the first two letters of the state that your driver's license came from, which should be North Carolina, and hit enter. If you do not have a North Carolina driver's license, you do not need to apply. You need to go and get a North Carolina driver's license. You'll put your email address in. And it will ask you to do it twice so that it knows it has the right email. And then it gives requirements for how to create your password that you can go back in and check your status for your concealed with this email that it will send you after you complete the application. But it also will ask for this password that you're creating now. And then it will ask you your current address. This needs to be the address that you physically live at and sleep at each night. If your driver's license does not match this address, then you will need to get your driver's license updated as per North Carolina statute requires within 60 days. When you get to state, yet again, type in the first two digits of the state, scroll down to the appropriate one, and hit enter. And then put in your zip code. It's going to ask how long you've lived at this address. This is helping establish residency. It asks if you're a resident of New Hanover County. You cannot apply in this county if you are not a resident of New Hanover County. If you live in Brunswick or Pender County, you will need to apply with Brunswick or Pender County for your carry conceal permit. If you are not a resident of this state, then you cannot apply for this permit. Next, it asks how long you've lived in New Hanover County. You'll fill that out appropriately. And then you'll go to months, because it requires something in that box as well. Then it asks you how long you've lived in North Carolina. Yet again, you'll fill that out and how many months as best. It doesn't have to be specific. It can be generalized. Next, it's going to ask you for your training certificate. You have to have taken the North Carolina Carry Conceal Permit. If you are law enforcement, then you will check that law enforcement box. That is asking if you're active law enforcement. This does not apply to probation. Next, it asks if you're a retired law enforcement. Yet again, that portion only applies to certain people with certain exemptions. So you would need to know your exemptions. Otherwise, you're using your training certificate from where you took the class. So you'll click on that and you will put your number in the box. Then you will come down and select New for Concealed Handgun Permit, and you will put your initials in. If you did not fill out some portion of the application correctly, when you go to move to the next page, it will highlight it in pink or red and tell me you cannot go forward. Now it's going to ask you about your criminal history. So you need to answer these questions appropriately. First question is, are you 21 years of age or older? You must be 21 years of age to apply for this permit. Have you been a resident of North Carolina for 30 days or longer immediately preceding this application date? You must be a resident of North Carolina and specifically this county for you to apply with the New Hanover County Sheriff's Office. Next, it asks, do you suffer from a physical or mental infirmity that prevents safe gun handling? If you suffer from a physical or mental infirmity, you need not apply for this. If you do not, click no and move on to your next question. Are you ineligible to own, possess, or receive a firearm under provisions of state or federal law? It's asking if you are not eligible. It is a double negative. So if you are allowed to, click no and move on to the next question. Are you under indictment or have a finding of probable cause been entered against you for a pending felony? If you're under indictment or have a probable cause pending because you have been arrested for a felony, you need not apply. But if you have not been arrested for felony or are not under indictment and going to grand jury, then click no and move on to the next question. Have you been adjudicated guilty in any court of law for a felony? If you have been found guilty of a felony, you would click yes, but if you have, you need not apply because it is a disqualifier and a prohibitor for this application. But if you have not been found guilty of a felony, click no and move on to your next question. It does say if you have been adjudicated of a felony, have you had your firearm rights restored? It's in reference to a federal firearms rights restoration. If you have, you will need to bring appropriate documentation to us. Next, are you a fugitive from justice, which means do you have warrants or outstanding criminal issues that you are on the run from and are not dealing with? If you are not dealing with your criminal matters and are a fugitive from justice, you need not apply. But if you are not, you click no and move on to the next question. Are you an unlawful user addicted to marijuana, alcohol, or any depressant, stimulant, narcotic drug, or other controlled substance? If you are an unlawful user, you need not apply. But if you are not, click no and move on to the next question. Are you currently or previously been adjudicated or admissively determined to be lacking mental capacity or mentally ill? If you have been mentally adjudicated by a judge, do not apply. If you have been found to be mentally ill and lacking capacity, do not apply. But if these do not apply to you, click no and move on to the next question. Have you been discharged from the U.S. Armed Forces under conditions other than honorable? This means if you've received a bad conduct charge, if you received a dishonorable discharge, you need not apply. Other than honorable means other than honorable, and it is a disqualifier and a prohibitor and will cause for denial of this application. But if this does not apply to you, then click no and move on to the next question. Have you been adjudicated guilty or received a prayer for judgment continued or received a suspended sentence for one or more crimes of violence constituting a misdemeanor, including but not limited to a violation of disqualifying criminal offenses listed in the disqualifying offense chart? This chart goes through many charges that are disqualifiers, some of which that are 3 years, some of which are forever. If you have been charged with any form of assault that is not simple assault, but assault with a deadly weapon, assault on female, you are permanently disqualified. If you are charged with disorderly conduct or communicating a threat, those are disqualifiers for 3 years. So, if you have not been charged and found guilty, click no. Have you had a prayer for judgment continued or a criminal offense which would disqualify you from obtaining a handgun permit? This means if you've had a PJC for any of those disqualifying offenses, don't apply. But if you have not received a PJC or this does not apply to you, click no and move on to the next question. Are you free on bond or pending or personal recognizance pending trial, appeal, or sentence for a crime which would disqualify you from obtaining a concealed handgun? Yet again, we reference that list that if you're free on bond for any of these charges, it is automatic prohibitor and denial. So, only apply if this does not apply to you. Have you been convicted of impaired driving offense within 3 years prior to this date of application? So, if you received a DWI, the date of your conviction of that DWI, the disposition date of that case, is when this starts. If you've gotten a DWI within the last 3 years, and the date you were convicted of it is 3 years from that conviction date, it's an automatic denial if it's before that 3 years. So do not apply if you've been convicted of a DWI within 3 years. If you have not, then click no and move on. Put your initials in and go to schedule an appointment. Go to the appointment times to select. You'll select a time for which you want to come. On that day, you will put your initials in, and we will go to checkout. You will put in the name on your card as it appears on the card. And of course, your 16-digit card number. Two-digit month and 2-digit year for expiration, no slashes. You go to the back of your card and you will put in the 3-digit code on the back. Then you will put the zip code for where you receive mail for this card that is either linked to your bank account or your credit card. It is the address that you receive the mail at. Hopefully it's the address you live at, and then you will hit confirm payment and you will receive a text and a phone call and an email saying that you have submitted your application. Thank you for applying with us at the New York County Sheriff's Office.